we're in factoring trinomials. Our goals are factoring quadratic expressions, identifying quadratic expressions that cannot be factored. Okay, so you got those notes on the way in. You can kind of make notes on there if you want as well. They don't make much sense right now, so you can just kind of set them aside and follow along with what we're doing here. Okay, so here we've got it. First thing what we need to do is understand what factoring is and what we're trying to accomplish by factoring. When I'm taking something like x squared plus 7x equals 12, and I say factor it, my ultimate goal for factoring, at least for you guys at the beginning of this, is going to be to find out what x is, to be able to solve for x. Okay? So you can't, to solve for x here, like if I had this and I said it equals, say, 0, okay? I want you to go ahead and try to solve that right now. Okay? Don't worry about anything else that's up there, I guess. Just try to solve that. Knowing what you know about math, how could you come up with an answer there? Give yourself a minute or two working with a partner. All right, how many were able to solve for x? Okay. So what'd you try? Yeah.
I subtracted 12 and then I divided 7.
Okay, so you subtracted 12. Anyone else try that? Yeah, I mean that would be the logical approach, right? That's what we've been trained to do, is try to move things away from the x. Then you divided by 7. Okay, so you divided this by 7 and that by 7. Did you divide this by 7? Okay. Anyone else try to divide by 7? Okay. You'd actually have to divide this by 7 as well. So that cancels there, and you get x squared over 7, or x squared plus x over 7 equals negative 12 over 7. Look any easier to solve yet? Probably not, right? So we can't use inverse operations like we've done, because it would be easy if there was only one x, but since we see multiple x's, we can't just do inverse operations. That's where we're trying to move things away from x. So this doesn't work. All right? So what we try to do then is we do factoring. And the factoring goal is to make it so that I could say, look, I am trying to find two things that multiply together, and then I can set that equal to 0 and I can solve. All right, so for instance, if I were to take a problem like we've had in the past, say like x plus 2 times 3x plus 5. Okay, what have we done with those lately? Like, what'd you have to do on your quiz yesterday with that? Yeah, you had to do the FOIL thing. Everyone go ahead and do what you had to do there. Okay? You see that, what do you think? Okay, how many did that?
15.
15? Oh, 10. Thank you. Whoa. Unbelievable. Is that better? How many got that? Okay, much better. Very good. I was starting to worry as well. I think Bobby's following along. Okay, so we got 3x squared plus 11x plus 10. So we've multiplied them out. Now, if I'm trying to solve for x, really when I'm solving for x, if we can think of graphically, so right now I'm just explaining the y, okay? If we can solve for x, if we can think graphically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out where our graph crosses. Crosses what? If I'm solving for x, cool? Not the y-axis. The x-axis, yeah. So this is a quadratic. It makes a parabola when we graph it. So when I'm solving for x, I'm trying to see where my graph crosses the x-axis. Now I'm not saying this graph crosses right there and there. It might. Okay? But I'm trying to figure out where my graph crosses the x-axis. Pay close attention and don't zone out. Okay? So I'm trying to find the x-intercepts. Everyone agree? Tell your neighbor what y is when we find the x-intercepts. What's the value of y? So if I were to write this coordinate, what's this? If I were to write this coordinate, what's my y value? Okay? How many know it? Think they know it? What is it? Everyone? It's 0. Right? It's 0. When y is 0, it crosses the x-axis. Everyone with me? So if I were to change this and say this times this equals y, that now means when I multiply it out, 3x squared plus 11x plus 10 equals?
0.
Yeah, it equals y, which we're making 0. Everyone agree? Okay. So we're not going to call it y, we're going to call it 0 because we want to solve for x. Everyone with me? Okay. Very good. Which one of these could I figure out two things? If I multiply this times this to make 0, what do one of those two things have to be? Tell your neighbor how you can make 0 during multiplication. Talk about it. How can you multiply two things to make 0? Everyone give Jaden your attention. Go for it. Yeah, if you multiply, if one of these things is 0, then we've got it. Right? So if I can make x plus 2 equal 0, then I'm good. So what would make x plus 2 0? Yeah. If x equals 0, then we get, yeah, we don't get 0. So what's x have to be? Negative 2. Okay, everyone agree? Okay, that would mean maybe this answer is negative 2. That's one of my x-intercepts. How many are with me? Okay, this right here. If I make 3x plus 5 equals 0, how do I solve that? What do I do first? Yeah. Take away 5. So now I have 3x equals negative 5. And now what do I do? Come on, Trinity. Divide by 3. I now have x equals negative 5/3. That would be another solution. It crosses twice. Those are my two answers. Okay, I was easily able to find the answers for x with this. Now, let's go to this form. Okay? If I'm in this form, and I say 3x squared plus 11x plus 10 equals 0, 10 isn't going to change. Everyone agree? 10 is going to stay the same. What do I need to add to 10 to make 0?
Negative 10.
Yeah, negative 10. Okay, how many ways can you make negative 10? I mean, all you need is two things to add up to negative 10. If you can get that, you can find your answers for x. So let's come up with some answers. You guys go ahead. As a group, come up with some answers that make negative 10. Two numbers that make negative 10. Go for it. All right. Hey, let's see how many you guys over there, what'd you come up with? Negative 2 and negative 8. Okay. Anyone else? Something else. Cool. Negative 7, negative 3. Any others? Kayla.
Negative 5 and negative 5.
Kyla, excuse me. Negative 5 and negative 5? Wow. Okay. Any others? TT. 3 and negative 13. Any others? Yes. Negative 4, negative 6. Are we ever going to run out of options? No. There's an infinite number of choices. And we're just going negatives. I mean, we could say 100 and negative what? 110. 100 and negative 110. 200 and negative 210. You will never run out of choices. There are an infinite number of possibilities that add to make negative 10. So this method right here does not help us. The form we want our our equation to be in if we're going to solve for x is this form right here. And this form up here, where we see those two sets of parentheses, that is called factored form. So our goal today is to factor. That's why we factor. Okay, that's why you're learning to factor. Everyone with me? Okay, so we're going to be undoing the multiplication you were doing earlier on. Like on your quiz yesterday, you were asked, take this and multiply it out. Well, now we're going to be going from this back to that. Okay? All right, so let's talk about that. Let's say I give you this equation right here. X squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay? We know that all equals 0. I'm not going to worry about the 0, so we're not going to worry about solving equations. Right now we're just going to worry about factoring them. Okay? So what is our factoring pattern? Well, the first thing you need to start recognizing is that these little symbols in between, okay, they mean something. They tell you patterns. Okay, so I'm going to expect that as we go through this process, when we start factoring, you automatically see the word factor and you put these two sets of parentheses down. So if you're taking notes on this, you should write this down, and right below it, right by it there, you should, or right next to it, you should put two sets of parentheses that you can write in. Because that's what factoring means. It means we make those quantities up. And those parentheses are called quantities. Okay, and I'm going to start you out with telling you the answer to this problem, because I think that's going to help us to solve it later on. This right here, the answer is x plus 4 and x plus 3. That's factored. Okay? Now, looking at this x plus 4 and x plus 3, I want you to work with your neighbor to come up with different ways that you could say, well, yeah, I can see how it could be this. Like, these two things make this, or this and this make that. Okay? Come up with some patterns that help you to figure out these symbols and the numbers in there. You get about a minute and a half of talk time. All right. Hey, so what kind of patterns do you come up with? TT. Okay, so good. These two numbers, when you add them together, they make this thingamabob, the 7. We call that our B term. Okay? So that's a positive 7. That's our B. And when we multiply them together, they make what, Jade? 12. Okay? And that's our C term. Okay, 2 Jaden, sorry. Okay, we got A. Where's our A term? What's our A term in this? Yeah. It's not it's the thing in front of the x squared. What is that? Yeah, it's just 1. Okay? Our A is 1, and that's going to be important. It's not necessarily as important here, but that's our A. So it might be important for you right now to identify A, B, and C. Add that to your notes there. Okay? A, B, and C. There, we've got it. So what TT said is these two things add up to make B and multiply to make C. Okay? 4 plus 3 equals 7, and 4 times 3 equals our 12. All right. How did we know it was going to be plus plus there? Caden?
Because there's 2 pluses in the equation and they're all positive.
Okay, so they're 2 pluses and they're all positives. This is a positive 7. This is a positive 12, so that would mean that those are both pluses. These are both pluses. Okay, there's some patterns involved here, and what I like students to try to memorize is try to understand how we actually go from this form to that form. So if we were to take x plus 4 and x plus 3, tell your neighbor the two things that multiply to make 12. Okay. Jennifer, what do we got? 4 times 3. It's where we do this part of it, right? Caden, you with me? Don't zone out here. It's when we multiply the two c's, 4 by 3. Everyone see that? Okay? So if I have a positive c term to make positive 12, I can get that by multiplying 2 positives. Everyone agree? Is there any other way to get a positive 12?
2 negatives.
Okay, Bobby said 2 negatives. Is that true? So how do I know it's not x minus 4 and x minus 3? Because that still gives me a positive 12. Jade? -4, -3 gives me 7, doesn't it?
It gives you -7, but not 7.
Don't be convinced that easy, Jaden. You're right. So what does that give me? Yeah, it gives me a -7. I want a +7. Therefore, it has to be plus plus. So if it's a positive back here, if this is positive, that means that the signs have to be the same. So if the signs are the same, then I look at my b term. Well, I want a positive there. That means it's plus plus. Everyone with me? What if this was -12? What if I had x squared plus x minus 12? Yeah? I'd have one negative and one positive. Everyone agree? The only way to make a back term, a c term, that's negative is to multiply a positive by a negative. Jake, you right? Yeah? Okay. Trinity?
Does it matter what goes first, positive or negative?
You mean like, no it doesn't. Yeah. Could be negative, positive. Is it still 3 and 4? What did I change in here? Yeah. Yeah, I just made this a 1. Explain to your neighbor why I had to make that a 1 and not a 7 now. Someone volunteer, man. Why does it have to be a 1, not a 7? Annalise?
Because you can't get -7 or a +7 with just one negative term.
Good, yeah. If you have one negative term, there's no way we're going to get a positive or -7. We're adding a positive and a negative together. So based on this, what does this need to be? This is going to be our 4 or our 3. Okay, everyone's hands down for a minute. Hold that one up. Okay? You're going to pick a number. You're going to put it on your fingers. On the count of 3. You've got to pick 4 or 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Why is it 4? It is 4. Now someone tell me why it's 4. Now maybe some of you are just lucky guessers. Okay? Keegan? 4 is bigger. And you need to have more here, right? If this was -1, we'd need to make 4 the negative. Okay? +4 and -3 is 1. Okay? Just like we did earlier, +4 plus -3 gives us +1. +4 times -3 gives us -12. We have that and we have that. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is figure out the factoring pattern. If we have a plus plus, we get positive positive. If we have a minus plus, notice C is positive, we now have minus minus. If C is positive, this is what you need to put in your notes. The signs are going to be the same. If C is positive, let me say that again, the signs are going to be the same. That means you have to look at your B term to figure out which sign it is. Okay. So they're either positive positive or negative negative. Look at the B term. Okay, that will tell you the sign. We with that? Okay, if C is negative, what's that tell us? Trinity? Yeah, it means that one of them's negative, right? It means the signs are, yeah, signs are different. Okay, and you could either have a positive or a negative here. All right, if C is negative, the signs are different. If C is positive, signs are the same. Automatically, so we're studying the patterns here, okay? All right, how many think you got that part? Okay, let's see how well we got it. Guys, notice we have 3 days spent studying 10.4. So I want to really make sure you have this down. It's very abstract. But right here, we're going to go through and figure it out here. So, taking a look, there we got it. First, identify what A, B, and C are. Okay? A, B, and C. What are they? Go ahead and you can put it in your notes there. All right, go ahead and tell your neighbor what A, B, and C are. Okay, check your work. Here we go. A is, what is it? A is 1. What's B? It's our 2. And C is? Negative A. How many had that? All right, very good. So, notice I have ax squared and bx there, but that's okay. I want to identify A, B, and C. Okay, let's go ahead. Tell your neighbor what your signs are going to be on this. Hopefully you have it in your notes. That's why I'm not showing you over here. All right. Volunteer? Lily? A negative and a positive. How many got a negative and a positive? Anyone get a positive and a negative? Does it matter the order? Doesn't matter. What's going to go in front? X. What goes here? X. Why? Because x times x is x squared. What are two things that multiply to make 8 and add to 2? Well, think of the things that multiply to make 8 first. Okay? 4 times 2 make 8. Do they add to 2? 4 minus 2. 4 plus negative 2, right? Which is what we want, right? So where does the 4 go? Is it the positive or the negative? The positive. And 2 is the negative. Okay? Does that work? Well, x times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And that makes positive 2. And negative 2 times 4 is? That is negative 8. We're good. Hey, we just factored that. Okay. Caden?
Can you put the positive for in front first?
So could you write it like that?
Yeah.
Yep. That's called the commutative property of multiplication. You can multiply in any order. A times B is equal to B times A. Right? 2 times 4 is equal to 4 times 2. Okay, now I see some of you starting to zone out. You guys have done a really good job so far. You're starting to zone out. Maybe this is just getting too easy. If that's the case, I'd be really impressed. All right. Any questions there? Let's try this one right here. First thing to do, identify A, B, and C. And then set up your parentheses. And if you think you can factor it out. Go ahead and share with your neighbor what A, B, and C are, and what your parentheses are.
Are you alright? Are you alright? Up full.
All right. What is A? Caden? 1. A is 1. That's going to be important. I know it seems like a waste of time, but our next step, that's going to be important. What's B? Someone new. Jaden? Negative 1. Okay. Negative 1. And what's C? Pat or Brennan, sorry. Negative 20. Okay, very good. What are our signs? Yeah? Yeah, they're different, okay, because c is negative, so it's positive, negative. What's our front term going to be? X. Will the front term ever change? Will it ever not be x? Right now we have x times x, right? And that makes x squared. When would this be something else other than just x? Okay.
And it's not x squared.
Yeah, when it's not x squared. Well, what if I had like, well, it's not, yeah, maybe if it's y, then it's y times y. Kayla? Or Kyla? Excuse me.
If it's x cubed.
X cubed, then we don't have a quadratic anymore. You're close, Annalise.
When a is greater than 1.
Yeah, when you have a number out here that's not 1, then you have to have other numbers in here. That's the next problem, by the way. Okay. So you guys are starting to get this really good, I hope. What goes here? Two things that multiply to make 20 and add to negative 1. TT? 4 and negative 5? How many got that? Got some agreement there? Yeah, 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. 4 plus negative 5 is negative 1. Okay. So if I wanted to solve this, which we're not doing yet, that's 10-6 when we get to that lesson. Solve it. We just say, okay, all that equals 0. This would be a negative 4, and this would be positive 5. Those are our answers. But for now, we're not solving. So just so you know, there's a purpose later. Okay, any questions right now? Everyone rate themselves 1 to 5. 5, I get where we're at. 1, I don't get it at all. All right. Very good. You guys have this sheet right here. These are the steps for Lizzie's method. Okay? Lizzie's method was, this, I can pull up the article about it, but she was this girl, she was an algebra student who was doing all this factoring. She saw different patterns. She's like, man, I'm just going to use these steps to solve. Okay? And it wasn't exactly all these steps, but the thing that she did when we did Lizzie's method was this piece right here where she did a times c, these two things right here, and then she divided by a. Okay? Those two pieces are things that she saw that helped her out. That's how I'm going to teach it to you. Okay? So I like to put all of these problems all on the same page at the beginning. These are the types of problems you're going to see. You have this sheet right here to help you out. And set it aside. Now, I know that some of your teachers have taught you the box method, and if you want to use the box method, I'm completely fine with that. It's up to you. However, for right now, what we're doing in class right this minute, please try this method. That means you may have to step out of your comfort zone for a bit. How many did factoring last year? You guys starting to remember it a bit? Okay? All right. So you'll notice set 1 here says factor the trinomial in this form. Set 2 says factor these trinomials in this form. Set 3, factor them out, those that are in this form. And set 4, factor these that are in that form. You should be able to look at these 4 forms and know what parentheses you're going to use. You should automatically be able to go, hey, all these problems in this set are going to be this type. Why? Because you know that pattern now. Question, TT? I'll get you one. Very good. So right now, next to set 1, 2, 3, and 4, I want you to put the correct operations in there. Go for it. If you haven't compared with your neighbor yet, go ahead and make sure you guys match up. Dude, not much talking. Okay, what's this one? C is positive, so we have plus plus because B is positive. What's this one? C is positive, B is negative. What do we get? Minus minus. Good job. Okay, set 3, C is negative. What's that tell us? Positive, negative. Doesn't matter what B is if C is negative. C is negative down here in set 4, we get? Positive, negative. How many got all those right? Okay, so good. You're seeing those patterns. Hey, on number 1 here, this is what I was just telling you a second ago. This is something you may want to add into your notes and then just put the answer on this page. That way when you're looking back to figure out how to do these hard ones that have an A term, you'll be able to look back to your notes and see it. You won't have to find the assignment. So let's go ahead and add that one to your notes. So if we go 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. So you'll be doing part of your assignment while you're taking notes, which is always a good thing. Okay, so problem 1. Okay. Now, in the past, we said, hey, 2 things that multiply to make 2 and add to 5. Are there 2 things that multiply to make 2 and add to 5? 2 times 1 make 2. Anything else make 2? Nothing. But that's not the step here. When we have this a term, we've actually got to, these are our steps. So if you're struggling, here's where we start. The first step is to multiply a times c. Well, what is a? 3. So if we label them, a is 3, b is 5, and c is 2. The first step is to multiply a times c. Okay? Now, we've always done that, like on all those other problems we were doing today. On this one right here, we multiplied a by c when we said 2 things that multiply to make 20, or negative 20. What is a? What's 1 times 20? Not a trick question. What's 1 times 20? It's 20. So really, we did a times c. It's just we didn't cognitively do it. We just said, yeah, it's 20. We just took c because when a is 1, it doesn't matter what a is. Okay? But here a is 3. So we got to go a times c. A times c is? It's 6. Now you say, so I'm following my steps here. Now you say, after we multiply a times c, find 2 factors of a times c. Okay, find factors of a and c. So all of our factors, that will add up to b. So as I'm finding the factors, and I list my factors just right below it. Okay? So what factors? What's the 1 times what? 6. Does that add to 5? You sure? Doesn't add to 5. It's a positive, right? So I'm adding. My parenthesis sets are, what are these going to be? Positive, positive. So we know we're adding. Okay? What's the next? After 1, we get 2. We only have to test 6 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we test 2. 2 times 3. Well, notice we're now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've now tested all the numbers. Is 2 times 3 5 or 6? Does it add to 5? Yeah. Okay. There we got it, man. Does that mean 2 and 3 go in here? Yeah, let's put them in. What goes out in front here? X and X. Have we factored it correctly? Tell your neighbor how you know it's not correct right now. Ayla, how do I know it's not correct? Yeah, you still don't get 3x squared. You get x squared. And what do we get? 2 in the back? What do we get? 6. So this one's 3 times as big, and this one's too small. Okay? Well, let's go back here. Have we done this? Yes? Have we done this? Did we do that? Did we set up our parentheses? Did we divide by a and reduce? No. We better divide by a. What's a? 3. We've got to take this. This is the extra step now. The a times c, this was a part of an extra step, and then we have to divide that a out. So divide that by 3 and reduce. Does 2/3 reduce? No. So I'm going to just leave it right now, just for the minute, as 2/3. Does 3 over 3 reduce? Yep. Tell your neighbor what it reduces to. What is it? It's 1. Okay. Is it right now? X times x, is that 3x squared? No. Is 2/3 times 1 2? 2/3 of 1. How could I make this so I could get 3x squared in the front? TT? Yeah, we could bring that and times the first equation by 3. Make that 3x. Where did we get that 3 from? Caden?
2/3.
Yeah, we got it from here. We're just going to move this 3. Anytime there's a fraction, we're just going to move that piece out to the front. That now gives me x plus 2 and x plus 1. Do we get 3x squared? Do we get 2? What's 3x times 1? 3x. What's 2x or 2 times x? 3x and 2x is 5x. Hey, we've done it. There it is. Yeah, man. So the two new steps, right? Multiply a by c. So we got to multiply by a, and then we have to divide by a. Seems like we're wasting our time. However, it helps us out. We multiply by a at the beginning and divide by a at the end. Okay? All right, you guys were like one of the best classes I've had doing the very first part of this. Seriously, you're just rolling with it. So this next step, if you can get this down, factoring should be a piece of cake for you. Because there's not any extra stuff we add after this. That's it. We'll show you. Huh? Yep, show you a few special pieces, but let's try number 4. All right, number 4 right here. I want you guys to get as far as you can using your steps. All right, you can add it to your notes. Okay, as far as you can using your steps there. 2y squared plus 9y plus 10. Give it a go. Hey, you guys, right here, really good job. I know that some of you are still struggling on it. Use your notes. A times C. So if we're focusing in on A, B, and C, A is 2, B is 9, C is 10. Now, it took me all about 10 seconds to write that down. A times C, that gives me a positive 20. Okay? Two things to multiply to make positive 20 and add to 9. Well, 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 doesn't work, so 4 times 5. This one adds to 9. So from there, I know my sets are y plus and y plus. A lot of us put x's, but that's a minor thing in this one. We put our 4 and 5. And then we divide by 2. So remember, multiplying by a and then at the end, divide by a. Those are the 2 extra steps. Divide by 2, divide by 2. If it reduces, reduce it. If it doesn't reduce, pull that out in front. And you've now factored it. Okay, it is challenging, it's abstract, but you can do it. Okay, keep working at it. Lily?
Does that order matter? Like,
Doesn't. You could have,
mine was 2y plus 5 first and then y plus 2?
yeah, you could have it in this order. That would be okay. Either one of those will work because you can multiply this by this or this by, it doesn't matter which way. Order doesn't matter. Okay. All right. So what I would like you to do today, I'd like you to attempt, we've done the first 2, 1 and 4. Okay. I want you to try that first column. I don't want you crossing anything out, but I want you to try this first column. Okay? And actually, before you go, I want to try 13 with you. Okay? So let's try 13 together. All right? Some of you already started 7. That's okay. Pause there and let's go on to 13. 5v squared plus 2v minus 7. Let's do that one together. Get as far as you can on your steps. And if you were struggling on this, that's okay. Some of you, it helped, I think, to write out your parentheses just right away. Okay, so that might be beneficial here. Write out your set of parentheses first, and then start following your steps on your notes here. Okay? Alrighty. I'm going to start her up there, and I'll be walking around. Ask for help if you need it. Okay, I realize you guys, not everyone is finished here, but really quick, A times C. So if I list A, B, and C, A is 5, B is what? 2, and C is? -7. How many made it that far? Okay, everyone get A times C? What is that? Is it positive or negative? Negative, that's a key thing. The only way to multiply to make a negative number is one of our numbers has to be negative. So when I'm going through my factor list, 1 and 35, does that make 2? Even if I make this one negative, could I get 2 out of that? No possible way. They don't differ by 2. There's 34 units in between them. How about next number that goes into it is 5. 5 and 7, do those differ by 2? Yeah. Which one of these has to be the negative? 5 does, because we have positive 2. We need more positives than negatives, so this is our negative. So when I'm putting together, we start out with our parentheses. The 5 goes with the negative. The 7 goes with the positive. What goes out in front? That's our B. Okay, let me pause there. Are there questions right there? What do I do next? The last step. Annalise? Yeah, we multiplied by A to begin with. Now we divide by that A. Okay, divide by 5 and reduce. Does this one reduce? Yep, comes V minus 1. And does this reduce? That does not reduce, so we just move the 5 out in front. We get 5V plus 7. All right. That's it. Hey guys, I encourage you, if you struggle at all, look at the video a bit tonight. You should have about 4 or 5 problems to do tonight.